All right, good evening, everyone. Zach, before we get started, Zach, remind me how to pronounce your last name.
Fleer.
Fleer. Okay, I was going to guess that, but I didn't want to guess. So there we go. All right. That's 6 o'clock straight up, I guess, by my watch. So I'm going to start off tonight by introducing Zach Fleer, an 8th grader at Chehalem Valley Middle School. And Zach has been mayor for the day. So Zach has had a tour of the building, went to the PD. We had and staff was absolutely fantastic. And I thought it was great. So Zach, I'm going to let you start us off and get this meeting going.
All right. This is the City Council work session for November 15th, 2021. I would like to call the session to order. Sue, please take roll call.
Councillor McBride.
Here.
Councillor Cofield. Councillor Gurnell Holloman. Councillor Martinez Plancarte.
Here.
Mayor Rogers.
Here.
Councillor Bacon.
Here.
Councillor Finley.
Here.
All righty. So now that we've got the roll call, we'll go to the review of the council agenda and meeting. And Zach, you can jump in anytime you feel like taking over the gavel again. So you just let me know. All right. Anything for the agenda or meeting tonight, folks? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I wanted to see if we could talk about a couple things maybe later in the meeting. One would be about maybe opening up City Hall back to the public, and also us perhaps meeting in person now, if we can do that, because it seems like that's something we ought to be able to do.
Right. I think the last conversation I'll jump in and I think people were polled, and most people I think were saying January in order to go in person. I think, is that right, Will?
Yes, so we did a series of one-on-ones with councillors, and the consensus was that they wanted to go with in person for January. And with regard to opening up the front of City Hall, I've also indicated to staff that despite their staffing shortages, they will need to do that in January to fall in line with that same beat.
All right. Anything else for either council agenda and meeting? I've got a couple of items, but I'll leave them for then. But Bryce, we'll see if Bryce comes on. I think there's a new addition to his household here just recently. So anyway, we'll let him do the introduction on that one. But and then I want to talk a little bit later on about the census survey. So if you guys have not done it yet, that's for the redistricting. Please do the survey. So if you have not, I have the names of who hasn't done it. So don't make me call them. So, and then, all right. And I want to talk about a community conversation subject that we're talking about. I think Denise knows what I'm talking about, and I'll bring it up with all the rest of you during the business session. So, all right. Any business items beyond that? Okay. All right. Let's move on to the presentation. And Will, I think you're going to do the introduction.
Yes, I'm very delighted to entertain this visit by Sarah Singer-Wilson. She's going to be covering the beginning steps of our strategic planning that we're going to be doing. And of course, I met her quite a long time ago when we both worked at Tualatin. I was a lowly library assistant, and it's very much a pleasure to have her here back at council. She and I have talked a little bit about hoping that strategic planning can bring us some clarity around the goals that the council already has. And without further ado, over to Sarah.
Thank you, Will. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me tonight to talk with you about your strategic planning process. I'm just delighted to be on board to help the city with this effort. And I'd also like to introduce my associate, Ashley Sonoff. She's also with us, and we'll do some introductions in a moment, but I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. We've got a presentation for you this evening. Let me get that going. Let's see here. Can you all see that? Good. Okay. Love it when the technology is working. So for tonight's presentation, I want to just share a little bit about our firm, SSW Consulting, and then we'll talk about an overview of the strategic planning process. And then more specifically tonight, we're going to zero in and focus on talking about the update of your council goals. So setting some council goals for 2022, and then just leave some time to answer any questions that you have about the process or have some discussion about maybe some outcomes that you're hoping to see. So just some quick introductions. So thank you to Will. My name is Sarah Singer Wilson. I have lots of experience and passion for local government. Before I started this consulting firm, I spent 15 years working directly in cities. So yes, I met Will when I was working as the deputy city manager in Tualatin, but I've worked in cities in Missouri, in the St. Louis Metro, and the Kansas City Metro. In Southern California, I worked for the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, and then last for the city of Tualatin. And then for the past I guess it's been almost 7 years now, have been doing this consulting work. So I do lots of facilitation and strategic planning and community visioning with cities throughout the country, but primarily in Washington and Oregon. And so that's a little bit about me. I have, I guess, just a personal note, I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and have lived with my husband and 2 giant Newfoundlands and I have a 11-week-old, almost 12 weeks daughter who was born in August. So that's been a lot of fun and lots of change and planning going on my own personal front as well. Ashley, if you'd like to just share a little bit share your intros.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us and having me today. I'm really happy to be here, excited to work on this project with all of you and with the community of Newberg. Like Sarah said, my name is Ashley Sonoff. I'm an associate on the SSW team, and I've spent the last 12 years working in organizations of all shapes and sizes, from the private sector and business to nonprofit, and then the last 6 years directly working in city government, which has been the best time of my career. I love the tangible connection to the community and the public service piece of working with cities. I've worked in the city of Seattle, and then also in Oregon. I've been at the city of Gresham, and then the city of Lake Oswego. So lots of different sizes of cities. I specialize in community engagement and working with data and analytics. So I like to think of myself as a data nerd. I love crunching the numbers and looking into data and looking at trends, but I also love that people, the people part of the work that we do, especially with strategic planning. And so I like doing the people side too. And I wanted to share a fun fact about me is that I actually lived in Newberg. I attended George Fox University for college. I spent 4 wonderful years in the Newberg community, so it's near and dear to my heart. I love chapters in the Coffee Cottage, spent lots of time there, as well as some other places around town. So this project is particularly exciting for me. I'm looking forward to getting to know the Newberg team better and giving back to the community in this way. So thank you so much for having us.
We'll give you
Thanks.
a Go Bruins for that. Go Bruins.
Yay.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, just a little bit about why we do this work. You know, communities and organizations are where we spend our lives, and we believe that they should be supportive, inclusive, and provide systems where everybody can thrive. So that's really what that's the passion that drives us. And we're guided by the belief that this work, while it's challenging, it can also be fun. And these values listed over here are what keep us on track while conducting this work. So we bring a lot of creativity into the process. You will see here later in the presentation a couple samples of some graphics, but I do graphic facilitation, and I'm just a very visual learner, and I find that lots of others are too. So we try to take these processes that we will lead you through and create a fun visual element to it to help people understand the information better and to be able to see the themes and emerging as we go through this process and try to sort through lots of ideas and priorities. And so you'll see a lot of creativity creativity infused into the process. Emotional intelligence, this is all about working with people, so we try to tap into that. We value the people that we work with, people of all races, ethnicities, shapes, sizes, whatever we embrace and are inclusive of all folks, and we're adaptable. You have, if nothing else, we've learned over the last couple of years, you have to adapt. And so we certainly believe there's not a one size fits all process for this. So we adaptability leaders in our field, and we're here to try to help you guys solve problems, whether that's in your community or anything else that comes up. So those are the values that guide our work. As I mentioned, we do strategic planning and lots of facilitation. So strategic planning is really all about uniting people towards a clear future. And we want to help you tap into your mission, your vision, your values, and be able to figure out what is that shared future that we're all trying to march towards. And then through facilitation, that's really what's fostering the relationships that will get the work done. So through some of the workshops that we'll coordinate and facilitate, we'll be not only thinking about goals and actions, but also doing some relationship building, because ultimately we need to work together to get the work done. So those are the services that we will be providing. As far as local government experience, Ashley and I talked about some of the cities that we've worked for, but in a consulting capacity, this is a short list over just the past couple of years of cities that I've worked with. So you'll see some familiar names on there of neighboring cities and cities throughout the metro, but lots of experience in leading groups through this type of work. So with that, enough about us. Let's talk about your strategic plan. So we met with your strategic planning team. Gosh, it seems like ages ago, but we learned a little bit about Newberg's goals for the process. But just to kind of back up, let's first talk a little bit about what strategic planning is. It's really those. It helps to guide us. It's a plan that will help to guide us toward our vision or a set of goals, and it's really those defined goals and actions to drive your vision forward in alignment with your mission, your values, and then create a plan to help get you there. And we know that we also want to recognize that plans do change, and again, we've learned that quite a bit over since 2020. So we strive really to design a process and a culture where the plan is designed to be regularly updated. So it's constantly evolving to meet the changing demands of a community. So while we go through this process and create the goals and actions, we're also working to create a culture where that plan is going to be evolving and continuously updated so that it stays relevant and isn't just a document sitting on a shelf collecting dust. We want it to be a living, breathing plan and document to help guide your work. Engagement of the organization, the community, results in unity around a mission, a vision, values, and goals. So you can expect to see that for your team. Shared goals that will be reached through collaborative discussion. So imagine lots of engagement is going to happen within the organization, the community, amongst the council, and then a specific plan to help you reach those goals that you set. So we'll dive deep into what those goals mean to you and how we're actually going to get them done, and potentially leveraging partnerships to make that happen, and thinking about who might those partners be. And then the other piece is thinking about the various plans that you have. So we know that having worked in lots of cities, there are lots and lots of plans. And so thinking about how those things align to help guide you in your work, so that it's not things aren't happening within a silo. So we know you have a budget, you have capital improvement plans, you will have a strategic plan and council goals and department goals. And so we want to try to help the city figure out how those things align so it feels a little more organized and moving you towards your vision. So when we met with staff way back when we were just starting this process, some goals that they alluded to that Newberg has for this process is we want to facilitate the strategic planning process, as well as a goal, starting out with the goal setting for the city council and the leadership team. This process needs to include a review of the community and the organization's current state. We want to engage the leaders to identify goals, develop that strategy, and then construct the strategic plan, as well as prepare the implementation structure I just talked about. And then support the city in your transformation to be more strategic by making better use of data in decision making and in supporting the organization in the implementation of the plan. So that's where Ashley's really going to be instrumental in helping us think about how we can use some of that data that you guys have to be more strategic. And then lastly, as I mentioned, it's about fostering relationships to get things done. So we really want to help you guys to build a collaborative and a cohesive team through that, the engagement efforts that are going to take place. So as far as the Newberg process, we know that you guys have been in a state of transition. And so we are already making a few adjustments to the process. And we want to just make sure that everybody understands we're going to begin with the council goal setting process. But the rest of the strategic planning process, just to give you a little preview, it will be it will include following the goal setting, and when the organization is ready, we'll proceed with that work by reviewing the current context of the community, kind of understanding where we are before we decide where we're going to go. We'll then conduct lots of engagement with the organization and the community, gathering ideas for how we might set some goals for the next 5 years, and then distill that information down into themes, which then we can discuss and further refine into that goal and action plan. But the very first step is to start with the council's goals for this next year and helping you guys set some priorities there. So I want to talk more specifically about this process. So what you can expect in a council goal setting workshop, we're looking at a one-day process where we'll start out just being really intentional about the work that we're doing and thinking about what it is you guys want to get out of this process. So I'm just going to plant the seed right now that at the end, I only have a couple more slides and I'm going to be asking you what it is that you want to get out of this process. So we want to be really intentional about how we design it. We want to make sure that we're aligned with the city's current vision. And so reflect on that, thinking about where we're going. And then take a look back and reflect and celebrate maybe what's happened over the last year, couple of years, and celebrate any accomplishments and maybe reflect on things that we want to maybe improve on. Then we'll review the context, what's going on currently, check in with the environment and see, what do we need to be thinking about as we set some goals this year? What's on the horizon? What opportunities can we leverage? What challenges should we be thinking about? And then we'll be working with the council and the leadership team to gather up all those ideas, refine those ideas into goals and actions, and then make a plan for the next year. Staff has already alluded that in this council goal setting process, one of the things we need to be doing is get specific. So sometimes you'll see council goals and they're wonderful. There's great language in there, but it can feel a little general. So I think what I've heard so far from staff is we want to dive a little deeper, get specific so that the staff organization and the team really understands what the council wants to see happen over the next year. Because ultimately what that will do is to help them design a budget that makes those priorities a reality. So the timeline and what that looks like. So right now we're in this scoping and planning phase, finishing that up. In December and January, what you can expect to see is some outreach. So we'll do some one-on-one interviews with the council. So we'll do some Zoom interviews to understand what your desired outcomes are. We'll hear from you kind of what your priorities are. And that gives us a sense of how to design a workshop to make sure that we're achieving those things. Again, this is not, while I facilitated so many of these workshops over the last 7 years, again, it's not a one size fits all approach. We really customize it to make sure we're meeting the needs of the group. In January, we'll start prepping for the workshop. So I leave no surprises. You know what to expect. You'll see an agenda ahead of time. If there's any work or resources that you guys need in advance of the workshop, we'll make sure we get those to you with plenty of time to review so that you can come in feeling really prepared and know how to participate. We figure if people are coming together on a Saturday to give up a weekend Saturday of their time, we want to make sure that everybody feels like they're getting the most out of it. And so then with that, on February 5th, that will be the goal setting workshop. And then following that, we'll send you all the notes and a visual summary of what happened. And then in March, we'll put together a summary report and an action plan so that you can use that as you guys develop your budget for the coming year. So that is the process that we're going to take you through. And now I just want to invite you to share any questions that you have about the process. And then I want to hear from you all about maybe some outcomes that you hope to see come out of this goal setting experience. So I'm going to stop my share and see what questions I can answer.
All right, folks, it's if you have questions, now's a good time. Stephanie.
This isn't a question so much as a sort of goal for me, is that you touched on it, but one of the things I think we really found out about setting our goals the last time was that after we had sat in a room for a whole day, we understood what we meant, but I think translating it to the staff and then having staff understand what we were talking about got a little bit lost. And I think part of the problem with a council that's different than some other organizations is that there are 7 people and we all sort of interpret things a little bit differently, and that we can't communicate with each other outside of our council meetings. And so there's not a whole lot of conversation that happens after the first goal setting. And so how we continue to be able to communicate to the staff sort of what the expectations are and have them understand what we mean as a collective, what we want to see, and then have a process for them to sort of push back to us and ask us to be more clear, to ask us to identify where they're doing well and where we would have things look differently. And so that's something that I'm interested in seeing, how that process works and how we can have conversations a little more regularly about the goals and what they mean to us as a collective body, and how that feels to the staff and how they and letting them push back on us about what does fall in those goals. But sometimes they have work that just doesn't fall into those goals. And for them not to feel afraid to say to us, this has nothing to do with those goals, but we still have to fix streets. And so how, that sort of give and take feels to them. So that would be a goal for me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, Elise.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this work, and I love the format that you use, and also super visual. I think for me, I'm just hopeful, us coming together, and a couple of us on the council are newer to the group, and so really just finding a balance for what everyone on the council really can commit to, I think is exciting to me, knowing that we're not all of us are going to get exactly what we want as each council goal, but my hope is really that we can come to a consensus, and when we leave, really agree upon each goal, even though it may not be exactly what we want.
And anyone else at this point? One of the things, I guess, for me, what I'd like to see is, and this follows a bit, but one of the things that's been absent, or at least in my recollection, is that we set the goals, which, again, as Stephanie said, made sense to some of us, but I don't think we ever saw a report how we were doing in relation to those goals. So that would have probably been an indicator that people didn't really know what the goals were, because we never heard about them again. And so that's one thing I don't want to have happen. I mean, I want it to be able to have, make sure the city manager can report to us and say, hey, on the area of sustainability, we've done this, or whatever it is, and really have a report back on it. Otherwise, it doesn't get much traction. So maybe that's more of a practical thing. Anything else? Yep, sorry.
No, it's an important point that you make, and one of the things that we'll include in the process. So what you guys can expect after the goal setting has been completed, after our workshop, is you will get a summary report. So you'll have an actual tangible report, but we'll put a section in there on what implementation looks like, and we'll have a conversation at the workshop where we can have staff and council can be involved as what is progress reporting going to look like, so that we have some agreement on that up front. So absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. All right, other questions, folks, at this point? All right, not seeing any. All right.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to working with you all. And again, this will be the first step in a longer process of putting together a 5-year strategic plan. And so we'll be sending out details soon for scheduling those interviews, but looking forward to more conversation in the coming months.
That's awesome. You know, Sarah, we're happy to be able to maybe share a little bit more about Newberg. And for Ashley, we'll just refresh your recollection of Newberg, and maybe that'll mean a visit or two at some point. So we hope for that. So, all right. Anybody else? Anything else? All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you both, and we'll be in touch soon. So great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
night.
you so much.
You too. All right. Well, we've got a little bit of time. Will, would you like to queue up your city manager's report? Are you
Yep.
game for that?
Yep. Thanks, folks. And good evening again, Honourable Mayor Rogers and councillors. In my last address, I stated that I'd be moving forward to add some basic operational changes to the city and getting a basic but standardised reporting system up and running. And these steps have been completed already. I'll be covering what I have done in this report. I'd also like to highlight that Operation Paperclip, which is the complete review and digitization of our personnel records, is already up and running. We're working on this between now and Christmas, and we're going to be doing that with help from 3 different departments. So that's going to be very good. First of all, I've created and published a policy that forms an internal Strive committee. The committee is made up of the number 2 person from each of our departments that have a considerable staff. The committee will oversee Strive awards, and in case folks have forgotten, Strive stands for service, teamwork, responsibility, integrity, value, and equity. The Strive committee will allow cross-departmental communications to flourish while the big bosses are not in the room. It will also make the theory of Strive an operational reality. And that won't be hard, since these are values that our staff live every single day on the job. Secondly, I've created and published a reporting standard for future CM reports. For First Council, you will receive narratives based upon the most significant events that have occurred during the last period for all departments. For Second Council, you will receive standardized statistics. While my supportive colleagues have offered me a ton of data, I've narrowed this down to a subset that will allow you, the council, to have a trend line that shows our hard work. The first reports are due to me on the 29th of November, but I can tell you that Russ has his in already. The library will report library circulation events, including renewals, and the library door count. Planning will report building permit statistics for residential units, other permits issued, and land use cases divided by the source. The police department will report total calls for service, traffic stops, cites and warnings, DUIs, and for public works, we will include total work orders completed, wastewater treated in millions of gallons, and millions of gallons of pure water manufactured. Lastly, we will start to track our responses to public questions for community engagement and economic development based on inbound questions and the total of our latest community and business outreach efforts. Using these metrics, the next city manager will have a barometer to gauge basic operational tempo, and council will have a meaningful measure of our work. Thirdly, I have created and published a hiring procedure to take some of the complexity out of the NeoGov hiring process to make it more transparent and fair to all applicants. Fourth, I have begun the process of building a city-wide org chart, which will be approximately 7 foot wide. so that my successor can see all major divisions at a glance. And actually, I'm not kidding. The basic model is about 96 inches across. So it's a bit of a monster. In the course of this process, I have reassigned our code enforcement officer to report to Captain Cameron in the PD so that he can gain support from the police team if he is out on a very difficult case. Lastly, knowing that time is short to get ARPA projects underway, I have assisted our finance manager, Katie, to get a white paper out to the budget committee and other major interested parties. Meanwhile, in parallel, Shannon, our economic development manager, is surveying the town to find small businesses that need ARPA help. Council has the white paper as of last week, and we are already rolling up our ARPA sleeves. We have moved fast in the last 2 weeks, but with basic operations stabilized, it will soon be time to start to turn our attention to the hiring process to find an excellent replacement for myself. I would at this time love to take any questions on the steps that I have already taken or on other matters that I may be able to assist with.
Questions, folks? Mike.
Well, I just want to say to Will, thank you. I mean, I've heard more in this report of what is starting to be accomplished than before. And so I really thank you for stepping up and stepping into some big shoes to fill and because of all the responsibilities. So thank you for that. And so I've talked to a few businesses. So should I just have them reach out to Shannon then directly? Is that the best route?
Yes, indeed, Mike. And to be frank, as it said in the white paper, we're already behind the power curve. So we have to accelerate. Any business owners who have ARPA applicable projects that they would like to get into the system and have voted on through the budget committee system, please have them reach out to Shannon to take the survey and also identify themselves.
Other comments or questions, folks? Well, I just wanted to reiterate what I said earlier. I mentioned earlier that Zach Fleer is on the call here. Thank you to staff today for it was fun. Zach, I hope you had at least some fun with our little tour today. But also, I really got to say to thank the staff. I don't know if I said this to y'all, and if I did, I'm sorry, I'm being redundant. But the city of Newberg right now, and probably the community should know, is running pretty darn lean right now. There's positions that have not been filled, but I've got to say that when we spoke to people about Dan's resignation, every single person I spoke with at the city was completely supportive of whatever had to, in terms of doing the work. They all said, we know our jobs, we're going to continue on, we'll do what we do. And every one of them said that they would work with each other. And I think that was evident today as we toured around as well. So thank you, right? Thank you to the staff, because it's not easy with all this turnover, nor is it easy when you're short-sighted, when you're short-handed. So, good. I'm glad, Zach. Well, thank you.
I had a great time talking to Zach about the problems of tree trimming, and it was a lot of fun.
Yep. You got tree trimming, and you got service dogs versus emotional support dogs. So yeah, you got some quizzes. So that was fun. All right. Anything else for our city manager? Okay. All right. A couple things. A reminder again, if you have not done, and I know who you are, if you have not responded to the survey for districting, please do so, because the consultant needs your thoughts in order to complete her process. Sue should have sent you out that here recently, or she will. So keep an eye out for that. The other thing is, and I know Denise has been in on this conversation, so I think y'all are familiar with the fact that Ron Mock is doing the civility project at George Fox. So that's been going on for about a year. The idea being that to try to be more civil in a world that is quite divisive. It's trying to bring people together to have a conversation. As an outgrowth of this, we're currently talking, and this is mainly Ron and Polly Peterson from Downtown Coalition and I, about trying to bring the community together for a conversation that is really just to launch this notion that we can still converse. We still have some of the very same values. Canby did something like this relatively recently, and I think it was quite successful, and it was well received by the community. So the idea is to invite community leaders, get them in the same room, sit them at different tables, and ask some very basic questions about what we want in our community, and hopefully through that find some commonality and go forward. Not meant to accomplish any great thing except to start the conversation. So wanted to give you a heads up about that. We would love all of you to participate, as we will be inviting community leaders to this as we get closer along. So anyway, any questions on that or anything else? All right. Well, we got through that quicker than I thought. So anybody else? Anything else at the moment? No. All right. Well, let's be back here at 7 o'clock and we'll see you then.
Can I ask one question, Rick?
Sure.
I took that quiz, the survey, right? The quiz.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
did.
you.
Yes, you did.
I take a lot of surveys.
Anybody else want to know whether they took it or not? I can tell you.
I know I didn't take it.
Okay, thanks for owning up. Thanks for being honest. All right. All right. Jules said she's going to do it during the break. So there you go. All right, good. All right. Otherwise, we'll see you guys back here at 7 o'clock sharp. All right, it looks like it's 7 o'clock by my watch. So allow me, for those who were not on the call earlier during our business session, allow me to introduce you to Zach Fleer. Zach is an 8th grader at Chehalem Valley Middle School, who we learn his favorite classes are English and science. So anyway, and so Zach was mayor for the day today. So Zach, why don't you get us started with this meeting?
This is this is the City Council business session for November 15th, 2021. I'd like to call this session to order. Sue, please take roll call.
Counselor McBride,
Here.
Counselor Cofield, Counselor Yarnell Holloman,
Here.
Mayor Rogers,
Here.
Counselor Bacon, oh, she's there. I see
She's
her.
here. She's here.
And Counselor Finley.
Here.
Thank you.
I'm here too, Sue, just FYI.
Oh, I'm sorry. Counselor Martinez Plancarte.
All right. Looks like we've got everybody but Bryce this evening. All right. All right. Just before we go any further, again, back to this mayor for a day. I hope I didn't forget anybody here, but I just wanted to thank again the staff for going out of their way to give Zach a tour of and explain what it is that the city does. So thank you to Allison, to Sue, to Lacey, to Z Hoffman, Russ, Zyra, Corey, Karen, and Katie, and anybody else that I might have forgotten. Thank you so much. You went out of your way, and it was great. So thank you very much. All right, let's go. Pledge of Allegiance now, please. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, let's move on now to item 4 on our agenda. This is the presentations, and I'll start with the first is a proclamation. And if you will indulge me, I will read this proclamation. Small Business Saturday is a day dedicated to supporting the diverse range of local businesses that help create jobs, boost the economy, and keep communities thriving across the country. The city of Newberg celebrates our local small business and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees, and they are responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. Small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector of the United States. 88% of US consumers feel a personal commitment to support small business in the wake of the pandemic. Excuse me, and 92% of small business owners have pivoted the way they do business to stay open during the pandemic. Small Business Saturday is about more than just shopping at local stores. It's about celebrating and sharing the small businesses that are a part of our everyday. They are the places we call our own and can't imagine living without. It's these businesses and the people behind them that make Newberg unique, and when these businesses succeed, we all succeed as a community. Advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. So now, therefore, it is proclaimed on behalf of the residents of the city of Newberg, Oregon, that we recognize Saturday, November 27, 2021 as Small Business Saturday. So thank you all, which actually comes right in and leads us to our next presentations. Coincidentally, the next two presentations actually help and represent small businesses in our community. So let us start first with Taste Visit Newberg and Leslie Caldwell. Well, good evening, Leslie.
Good evening, Mayor Rogers and council and staff. I'm pleased to present Taste Newberg's quarterly report for July to September 2021. Next slide, please. Thank you, Sue. So our primary asset is our website. We update the website regularly with fresh content, which includes new business listings, blog articles, and events. Our listings also populate on Travel Oregon and Willamette Valley Visitors Association's websites. Businesses within a 20-mile radius of McMinnville also populate onto the Visit McMinnville website. Our goal is to provide inspiration and safe travel information, whether people are planning a visit soon or well into the future. For the quarter, we had 6,237 unique visitors to our website. This was up 112% year over year. This represents 26% of our annual goal as outlined in our business plan. Page views totaled more than 18,000, reflecting a 200% increase year over year and 37% of our annual goal. Average time on site increased by 12% to 1.8 minutes with an annual goal of 2 minutes. Outbound referrals to industry partner businesses were 2,243, reflecting 65% of our annual goal. So we will continue to analyze our website content, the visitor journey, so that we can increase visit time and relevancy of what we put on the site. Next slide, please. So we refreshed our website in this past quarter with a new homepage video reflecting a variety of activities available to visitors in Newberg. We wrote and published 3 blog articles. A road trip to wine country was one, pizza and beer in Newberg, which was a popular one, and Newberg offering a great family-friendly getaway. We supported 41 industry partner businesses through these articles, and total blog views were 994. We produced Instagram stories guides about the Newberg Lavender Trail, as well as Sip, Shop, Dine in downtown Newberg. And we're happy to support Small Business Saturday and all of our small businesses in Newberg. We also shot and produced 2 Instagram reels, and we'll continue that strategy for our small business community. Next slide, please. So for our social media, the results reflect follower growth of 165% year over year on Facebook and 164% on Instagram. Instagram continues to have more followers than Facebook, while engagements are similar on both channels. Our Instagram reach grew almost 900% for the quarter, partially due to our Welcome Here post and it being shared by Willamette Valley Wineries Association as well as many of their member wineries. Our social media focus has included inspiring stories, guides, and reels, including our Newberg Lavender Trail campaign, the opening of Subterra, the setting in, and Dos Mundos #2 at the Bite of Newberg, and also a carefully balanced mix of activity suggestions. Next slide, please. So we have achieved 85% of our annual goal for Facebook followers. Our engagement, however, is at 7% of goal, so we have work to do to increase that data point. Our reach is at 23%, which is on track for our annual goal. As you can see in the engagement and reach statistics, the numbers surged as a result of the Lavender Trail promotion in July and the All Are Welcome Here post for engagement and reach in September. Next slide, please. So we've already achieved 110% of our annual goal for Instagram followers. Engagement is on pace to achieve our annual goal, and reach has far exceeded our annual target. Next slide, please. So our Instagram top 5 posts were about our social equity statement, Rose Marino, the pizza and beer blog, Dos Mundos opening their second food cart, and also Vista Hot Air Balloon Adventures. Far and away, our numbers were the greatest for our All Are Welcome Here post. Next slide, please. So for Facebook, the top performing posts were again the social equity statement, as well as View and Vine vacation rental, Subterra reopening, a Reddick and Wood video, and the setting in opening. And again, on Facebook as well as Instagram, the equity statement was the highest performance of all the posts. Next slide, please. So we are tracking our audience growth by out of area. So in the beginning stages of our work, we gained a lot of followers and fans from our local community and nearby communities, but now we're really striving to push for more, really targeting the visitors from more than a 50-mile radius. And so this chart reflects the growth that we've seen for each month for each channel between Facebook and Instagram. Next slide, please. So we sent consumer newsletters out monthly for the past quarter, highlighting our seasonal lavender promotion, as well as Chehalem Cultural Center events, gallery exhibits, outdoor wine tasting offerings and events, as well as new business openings. We also sent e-newsletters to our tourism industry partners, including information about the Lavender Trail, as well as events and new business information that they can share with their customer base and their audiences. So we're pleased to consistently have an open rate on these emails between 30 and 50%, and our click rate is ranging between 4 and 11%, which exceeds the industry norm, and it helps us know that our content is relevant. So for the quarter, our top performing clicks showed really a mix of interesting topics, between the George Fox Civility Project workshop to tips and training to avoid mass confrontation. It's, there's just been some interesting times that we've tried to feed, push out relevant content as best as we can. Next slide, please. So from a public relations standpoint, our efforts for the quarter resulted in 14 articles, 106 million impressions, close to 5,000 social media shares, and mention of 48 industry partner businesses. In partnership with Willamette Valley Visitors Association, added PR efforts from their team generated another 7 articles, 14 million impressions, and 21 Newberg business mentions. Next slide, please. So during the quarter, we focused on the Lavender Trail promotion, which I've mentioned a number of times, a media fam visit of 18 wine and culinary writers that was co-hosted with the Ribbon Ridge Wine Growers Association and the Allison. Then the earned media coverage highlights for Lavender were on KPTV, Coin, 1859 Magazine, WAVA in their blogs, as well as social media influencers on their Instagram channels. We had an article in Forbes for eating and drinking around Oregon wine country. We had an article in Seattle Refined Magazine for an idyllic, quick trip to Willamette Valley. And then USA Today for adorable winery dogs, as well as Newberg's nomination for best small town food scene. I also included some statistics for the impacts of Newberg happenings specific to the Oregon School Board and other related incidents, and its effect on Newberg and national and local news. I just thought it would be interesting for you all to see those numbers. We have not updated that count since the latest news last week, but it's just, you know, our PR team works hard to gain a lot of positive articles and mentions and impressions, and sometimes the negative press can put it backwards a little bit, but we just keep striving to push out positive, you know, information for the visitor public and to let them know that we really do welcome their visit. So we hosted 5 media visits throughout the quarter with stories in the queue for fall and winter coverage. Next slide, please. So our July media coverage included 14 articles mentioning Newberg places, people, or happenings, including lavender events, Black wine industry individuals of note, and the opening of the Setting In. A total of 54 Newberg businesses were mentioned. Next slide, please. So our August, we had 10 media mentions, included great articles about wineries and their dogs, rosé, road trips around Oregon wine country, and the Setting In. September's articles focused on wine country, wine and birding destinations, and Newberg's best small town food scene. The Newberg businesses mentioned during July and August totaled 54. Next slide, please. So for our partnerships, we actively engaged with our state and regional destination marketing organization teams through participation in various Travel Oregon and WAVA meetings as listed on this slide. We participated with WAVA in a Seattle consumer promotion in July, as well as a co-op ad campaign on Priceline and Kayak for our Newberg hotels. We collaborated with Oregon Wine Board, Willamette Valley Wineries Association, Newberg Downtown Coalition, and the Chamber on equity statements and consumer messaging in September. Next slide, please. It was a busy summer with participation on the Yamhill County Economic Development Advisory Council regarding ARPA fund program recommendations, initiation of Newberg stable table meetings, planning of leadership Chehalem Valley Tourism Day, and participation on the hiring committee for the Chamber's new executive director, Scott, who's on the call today. Next slide, please. So this chart tracks net City of Newberg receipts for lodging tax revenue per quarter. So the July to September 2021 receipts were $286,000, which is up 57% compared to last year and down 29.5% to 2019. I would like to point out the fact that 2019 was a record year for lodging tax revenue in Newberg. So we are slowly making our way back. The Allison continues to experience staffing shortages, which has caused lodging capacity limits on a nightly basis, as well as closures on Monday and Tuesday nights. They're not completely closed because guests pushed back and said, no, we want to come anyway. So the restaurant's closed, the spa's closed, but the guests are coming. So an interesting situation over there. So occupancy forecasts appear fairly strong for the remainder of the calendar year, but there still may be some traveler hesitation due to COVID. Next slide, please. So Taste Newberg's total revenue in the first fiscal quarter was $81,000. $30,000 were prior year carryover grant funds from the city of Newberg. $51,000 reflected the actual TLT paid from April to June. As you might remember, the prior quarter's funds don't come to us until the following quarter. So that's why we're always in arrears on reporting that. So total expenses for the quarter were $64,000. Our most significant expense line items in the quarter were for annual audit fee, payroll, advertising, marketing, public relations, videography, social media, and website. So we will continue to gauge the TLT revenue on a quarter-to-quarter basis so that we can adjust program expenses accordingly. One change you will see to the budget line item amounts going forward is a shift from payroll to advertising, marketing, photography, and social media. The reason for this is that our marketing manager, Ron Miller, left Taste Newberg's employment in July and has been replaced by outside marketing contractors at a similar expense. But you'll just kind of see it shift from payroll to the actual program expense categories. Next slide, please. So that concludes my presentation tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions any of you might have.
All right, any questions for Leslie, folks? I'm not, oh, there's Elise.
All right, I just have to say it. I just feel like I just really want to tell Leslie thank you for enduring through this pandemic and coming on literally at the start of right when you came on. I feel like then COVID happened a couple months later, and you've just weathered the storm and really taken some hard feedback from us. I really feel like I've seen you incorporate our thoughts into your the way that you operate the organization, and I also just your presentations are always so beautiful too. So really, really good job. I can tell how much thought you put into it, and just thank you to the whole board for the amount of work and responsiveness in the community that each of you have shown these past few months that have been pretty hard for our town.
Yeah, I super appreciate that. And you know, I do take the council's feedback to heart and try to incorporate recommendations as they come. And I appreciate the feedback always. So thank you for your kind words.
And Leslie, you know, again, thank you for everything. And thank you, you know, on behalf of all of the small businesses in town that you are supporting, small and some not so small, but, you know, thank you. And I think that can never be lost, that, you know, the visitors are here to support our businesses, and you make that possible. So thank you. Thank you so much. Right.
My pleasure.
All right. Any other questions, folks, for Leslie? All right. Let's move on then to item 4C. This is Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce Q1 Visitor Center Report. And Mr. Scott Parker, good evening, sir.
Hello, you all hear me? All right. Well, thanks for having me. And my presentation will be much different than Leslie's. And I do want to echo Leslie, great job. Mine will be much shorter. I guess I'll preface by saying, you know, I'm at 2.5 months now of my tenure here in Newberg. And I do want to say that as of today, my house in Colorado is under contract. So that's huge. As Phil Higgins, one of our executive board members, said today, haha, now you can't leave. And not that I would, but it's just funny that, you know, so now you're stuck with the Parkers. And the Allison Inn just got one new employee. My wife starts working at Jory on Wednesday. So
Hey, congrats.
yeah. So we're you know, we really like it here. And you know, so this report, I guess 2/3 of it was before my time. So I got here September 1st is when I started. It was a big learning curve. You know, as I started, I was the only employee. So my time was spent getting to know the visitor center. I love when people would come in and I'd chat with them, you know, get them maps and get them whatever materials they wanted. We hosted a couple of greeters events in September at the visitor center. And, you know, I still get comments from people of like, oh, this is the first time I've been in here. So it's still, you know, we're still getting people through the door. I think people are starting to want to get out a little more. You know, they're getting out of that COVID shell a little bit. We did just bring on a new employee. I know I'm supposed to talk about the first quarter, but it's hard for me not to talk about the things I've got, you know, going on now. So I will be excited to make this presentation for second quarter, because we've got some really neat ideas to get more people through the door and incentivize people to come in, you know, to the visitor center. Certainly hosting more greeters events. We have, you know, our next stable table meeting will be at the visitor center, and that is a group I very much like working with. That's me and Leslie and Polly, and it was the city manager, and we'll see what the city's participation in that is, but it's just a great way to meet and collaborate, because we're all in this together. And I do want to go back and say hi to Zach. I am a former middle school teacher, so thanks for doing this. this is really cool that you're on here, Zach. So, little things like we just had a new artist come in and put artwork on the walls at the visitor center, and we're going to be a consistent stop now on First Friday Art Walk. All things like that to get more traffic in the visitor center. Unfortunately, I did in September have to take a couple of phone calls from people that weren't real pleased about what's going on in the community, and the feedback I got from a lot of people they thought it was a good thing that I was new to the area, because I'm coming in with sort of no preconceived notions of what's been going on, and so I can sort of attack things with a more fresh perspective. At least that's the feedback I got from people. So I'm just looking at my notes here, and I'm happy to take some questions, but I'm seeing an uptick in people coming through the visitor center. Like I said in my report, being new, I think some people wanted to come in and meet me. So I've certainly had a lot of coffee meetings at the visitor center, and just encouraging people to pop on in and say hi. So.
All right, well, it looks like Elise has a question.
I love the stable table idea. That's awesome. And welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
I do want to meet you in person one of these days. That would be great. Okay, just all my cards on the table so you know what I want. I would love to know an actual count of people coming through the door, and then actual count of phone calls inquiring, and then electronic inquiries as well. I would love to see those numbers quarterly. And see.
I do have part-time help now, so I've got somebody that's manning the front desk. Before it was we installed a doorbell kind of thing, so when someone opened the door, I'd run in from the back kind of thing. But I will. One of the things we are working on is getting very accurate numbers on the very things that you asked. So
great, thank you.
And we're capturing email addresses when people come in, because I'm going to add them to the chamber's email list. And
I have one more question.
Yeah,
this is kind of along with Will too. So just wanting to know what your involvement in the ARPA funding of local businesses. Are you involved in that process to make sure that people that are contacting you are looped back to Shannon and Will?
I'm on a lot of committees for that very issue. So I'm trying to stay as up to date on where they're coming from and where they're going. I was just on a Zoom today about various ARPA funds. So yeah, just trying to stay as up to date as I can about when they're coming in and where they can go and how to best serve our business community with those funds.
And Elise, I will be at these meetings. I was not able to attend the first one because I had just become a person.
I will. I look forward to meeting you.
All right. Well, Scott, again, you and I have had the pleasure of meeting in person. We cut a ribbon for
we sure did.
Right, for a new business, so we did that. So that's great, and I'm glad. And hearing that your wife is now firmly entrenched. Your house has gone under contract. Yeah, you're not leaving. You're here. You're here for the duration. So that's cool. We like that.
And that was you at the post office this morning. That was me waving. And I walked.
Oh, was it you? Okay, yeah. I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell. Oh, good. Okay, good. Yes. All right. There we go.
Yeah.
Small town thing. There we are.
I loved it. I'm like, I just waved to the mayor. Like that made me feel good. I was walking to Coffee Cat to get a cup of coffee. So
that's it. That's awesome. Well, that's cool. Any other questions, folks, for Scott? All right. Again, as we said with Leslie, thank you for all you do largely for small businesses in our community and the surrounding communities. Without it, I don't know where we would be. So thank you, and keep directing those businesses to Shannon for those surveys and the whole thing. So thank you so much. All right. Let's move on here. Wait. I forgot one person on the thank you for Zach's. I know I forgot somebody else for Zach's visit. Ian. I almost forgot Ian, and I'm sorry, Ian, but yeah. So there you go. You got to see all things computer, which is which I didn't understand any of it, but it was cool nonetheless. So there you go. All right. City manager's report we've already had this evening. We'll provide that during the work session. So now let's move on to city council appointments. I think this is item 6A, urban renewal committee appointments. Is this who would this be? Is this you, Will, or is this Mr. Rux?
My assumption was this was Mr. Rux, perhaps.
Yes. Let's see if we see him here. Doug, there he is. I think he's on the attendee side.
Mhm.
So Zach, 8:30 tomorrow, back to school, right? No more of this fun being mayor stuff. You got to go to school now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Mayor, it says you're responsible.
What's that?
It says you're responsible. It says staff, Rick Rogers,
Oh,
mayor.
is that right? Okay, well,
Yep.
I suppose I can do that if need be. All right. All right, so with the mayor's appointment, apparently, this is a mayor's appointment of Philip Higgins, is a board member of the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce, and we would like to have him join to replace Josh Duder, who has moved on. So I will take a motion to that effect if someone is so inclined.
Mayor, I'd make that motion.
Okay, Sue?
Zyra taught me how to mute myself. I'm still learning. Can you double down on that motion, Denise? and
I
add
will
the second
double
part
down. I'll actually read.
to,
the whole-
sorry, my Harney County coming out there. And
That's all right.
reconvene the ad hoc urban renewal citizens advisory committee starting November 16th and to be sunset on April 30th, 2022.
I see it.
So, thank
Got
you.
it. There we
Yep.
go. Beauty.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the council consent to your appointment of one new member to the Ad hoc Urban Renewal Citizens Advisory Committee, Philip Higgins, as a board member for the Chehalem Valley Chamber of Commerce for the term beginning November 16th, 2021 and ending April 30th, 2022, and reconvene the Ad hoc Urban Renewal Citizens Advisory Committee starting November 16th, 2021, and to be sunset on April 30th, 2022.
Okay, can we have a second?
Second.
Mike with a second. All right, any further discussion? All in favor signify by raising your left hands. Unanimous. All right, thank you. Actually, Council President Finley, you should have done that. This is yours. Yeah. All right, my apologies. All right, let's go. We're now on to public comment. On this, why don't we receive some written public comment, and if Councilor Yarnell Holloman would be kind enough to read that, that would be wonderful.
Sure thing. And I made sure that Lincoln just left the room so that I have no interruptions. Let's see here. So this is from Weston Granberg, an Army veteran. This is in regards to the school district firing the superintendent along with their other conservative policy making decisions. My name is Weston Granberg, and I'm writing to you because I believe if I tried to send an email to the school board, it would fall on deaf ears, while you can use my message to show the public what type of conservatives are in charge of the school board and the trouble they're bringing. A lot of what conservatives are doing have been doing for many years now reminds me of Sharia law, and also what the Nazis were doing to try to indoctrinate children. They're using fundamentalist beliefs in scriptural liberalism while believing themselves to be ideologically pure as justification for actions when they cannot give an actual answer. Any education that teaches progress, science, reasoning is met with fear and hostility. They show absolute intolerance of others, and they're trying to lie about history or outright ignore history to try to convince people that something else happened. They're unmoved by science, evidence, facts, and any kind of any kind, but they embrace any information that will validate their hate and fear. The past 2 decades have shown us that they are not willing to learn from the greatest tragedies the United States has suffered or that the world has suffered. Instead, it looks like they're taking the greatest influence from the worst dictators and rulers in the history of the world. If you do not just believe this to be true, explain with court history, criminal records, police records, statistics from the CDC and FBI. Explain with actual facts and evidence that justifies intolerance of same-sex couples, couples of different races, couples with different religious beliefs, or hatred of women and women's bodies. Explain why being prepared for natural disasters, pandemics, food and water shortages is a bad thing. Justify any of the hate and fear that conservatives have of the world and the people in it. If what the conservatives are doing bothers you, teaching children and people to hate and fear, I urge you to do everything legally possible to make sure they do not have the power to do such things anymore. Sign petitions, come together and sue them, protest, vote them out, and let the spirit of freedom that this country keeps saying it has truly flourished.
Thank you, Elise, and thank you to Mr. Granberg. Next, I think I've got Mr. Jesse Cad signed up for public comments. Is Mr. Cad on the call, Sue?
I believe so. I thought I promoted him.
Okay.
Let me see what's going on. Sorry.
I am
I
here.
have to take away the clock.
Ah, there we go. There he is. Good evening,
Okay.
Mr. Cad.
Good evening.
You have 5 minutes. What do you have for us this evening?
Well, I'll get started. Good evening, Mayor Rogers, and good evening, councilors. Tonight, I want to limit my comments to something I discovered while taking my usual lunchtime walk the other day. I work from home and try to air myself out at least once a day with a walk that often takes me downtown Newberg. I happened to be walking by City Hall the other day and noticed as I passed that there is a huge pride flag hanging in the hallway there. It is visible from the front doors. I was taken aback because, of course, it isn't June, which might explain it, and with all the recent furor over political symbols in schools, I would expect the city would want to restrict itself to non-controversial and non-political endorsements. But there it was, plain as day, clearly a message to the constituents of Newberg that the leadership of our town has picked sides in a political, social, and cultural war. In the name of being welcoming to a minority group, they are forcing a repugnant celebration of sinful lifestyles down the throats of the majority of people in our city who believe the LGBTQ+ agenda is contrary to the health of our society and plainly contrary to the will of God as expressed in Scripture. No amount of couching this as merely a sign of welcome can change this. Love of neighbor is central to my Christian faith, but love does not mean affirming a person in their damaging and sinful choices. It means speaking the truth in love, even when that truth is uncomfortable. I cannot in good conscience stand by while our city speaks a message through this symbol of sin to our community that homosexuality, gender confusion, and sexual deviancy are good, admirable, and to be celebrated. To do so would be a form of hatred, as I would be affirming someone in their delusion, encouraging the inevitable damage that they will do to their bodies, minds, and souls, with eternal consequences if they do not repent of their sin and turn to Christ, who is their only chance of redemption. I'm not asking the city to preach this good news of salvation. That's supposed to be the job of the church. It is also the job of the church to disciple the nations, of which the city is an example. Therefore, I adjure you, city councilors, in the name of God, to direct the interim city manager to remove this symbol of sin from your building. Do not take sides in this political, social, and yes, religious issue. Make Newberg truly welcoming by eliminating special treatment for sexual deviance. Stop promoting LGBTQ+ agendas and forcing those who deeply disagree to endure symbols that celebrate as pride that of which they should be ashamed. Mayor Rogers, councilors, and interim city manager Worthy, take down that flag. Thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. Cad, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. I think we have now reached the very end of our agenda. So Zach, are you still on the line there, my friend? There he is. All right, Zach, I have one more duty for you. Well, let me check. Counselors, yes, Elise.
I would like to move that we are able to have, I would like to find why we don't respond to public comment. I know that other boards and that I have been watching and witnessing have ability for, board comments, maybe not in response to public comment, but an opportunity for each board member to make some sort of statement during a meeting. Is that possible to add to the agenda? I know we have like committee reports, but we don't often report out. And I think it's important that, especially during this time of.
Let me check here with James for a little bit of consultation on this kind of thing, responding particularly to public comment. James?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and appreciate the inquiry, Councilor Yarno Holloman. The council's rules do specify or provide for a public comment period during the regular business meetings explicitly, but the rules also state in the guidance and procedures in the exhibits that it's intended to be a public comment and not a venue or a space for exchange or debate between the councilors and the public. There's a few reasons for that. I mean, one is the efficiency purpose of moving through public comments when you have a high volume of public comments and being able to hear all of the residents and citizens, and also the efficiency that comes with not having a debate or exchange on each public comment. But there are other components as well, as far as kind of identifying the distinction between the speech as a council versus speech as individuals, and being able to draw that line in a way that's a bit clear without a public debate. So that's the intent behind it in the rules that the council has drafted.
Does that help answer it, Elise, or what do you think?
I think that makes total sense. I support that. I guess I just wondered if there's opportunity to have some sort of board comments. I guess, just to be honest, I have struggled in my time on council to know, when you're trying to express something, the appropriate time to do so, since there isn't really a venue. And I know that sometimes I've done that during committee reports, sometimes a presentation is allowed for that, but I have noticed, for example, on school board that they have board comments following public comment.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Well, I don't think as James mentioned, we can't do necessarily an interchange, but I think that that's perfectly fine if people would like to make a broad comment now. This will be under the council business item 8. And that is the time when I think we can do that. We can report out. And if you have a comment particularly, please feel free now, if that's okay, James.
That is, and thank you, Mayor, that I think there are two spaces to do it. The council business, I think that sometimes, depending, just because the topic that can come up during public comment can vary so widely. I've also seen it where, council is given an opportunity to gather thoughts, and then it can be included as a subsequent agenda as part of a work session or other portion of the agenda. But yes, Mr. Mayor, council business is a fine place to do that.
Let's move into that then. It is currently council business. If people would like to make a comment or report out on some of their other activities, now would be the time.
I think my mic is bad. Denise, did you say my mic's bad? Is that better?
Yeah, you're going in and out a little bit. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Try again.
I know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
I don't know. I'm so sorry. I just, just following that public comment and I think the state of what we've all been living. I just have been thinking a lot about, how to be the best leader that I can be in the community and really try to understand where both sides are coming from. And I think that is the way I view my role. And I think a lot of us, if not every single one of us, really view ourselves as, nonpartisan community leaders that are, have a duty to represent every person in our community. And, I think it was Denise actually that posted a Facebook post of just like the loss of the art of civility and compromise and coming together. And so while, public comment is absolutely public comment, and I honor the space to do that, we live in a free democracy to do so. I also just really challenge all of us that there's a lot of pain and hurting going on right now. And so, I know for me personally, hearing that the pride flag, the religious rhetoric behind that being a divisive or things that I believe it not to be true, and me as in my Christian faith not to see it in that way. I really hope that we can come together so that people do not feel unsafe, and that we can find common ground, because I do believe that there is common ground to be found right now. But I really can't stand for what I believe to be comments that make other people feel unsafe and unseen. And that would extend to any person in the community, but specifically right now in this meeting, I would feel really uncomfortable without saying that I am not comfortable not removing the flag from the City Hall building, and that was a choice made by staff. That was not a directive by us, and I honor that decision.
Anyone else? Will.
Just for the record, one of the first actions I did was to have the ensign flag of all branches of the service to be hung next to the pride flag to indicate that City Hall will remain non-political and welcoming to all. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I'd like to just a couple of comments. Just for those who have not, I know we just saw another recent comment from someone saying that the house that they were going to buy, they've canceled the contract on the house they're going to buy in Newberg. I don't know how many of you saw this, or the person that was going to expand their business and add another 50 business employees to Newberg. I've decided not to do so. And I think the other thing I'll highlight is that when Leslie from Taste Newberg was speaking, she said that the post that was the most popular, I suppose, or the most read, was that all are welcome here. And that, again, is from our tourism entity, right? So, and I think we as a council have made it abundantly clear that we believe that being welcoming is important to this community and for all who live here. So, all right, anything else on that? The other thing I will say, and I mentioned this earlier, I mentioned it, and you'll probably hear me again. I truly believe we need to be able to converse. Okay, I think we truly need to be able to speak in a way that the Civility Project at Fox is trying to promote. I think this is something that all of us as community leaders and people like Mr. Cad or whomever else should be able to join the conversation to try to come to some understanding of what we truly and fundamentally believe for this community. So please, please plan to be a part of that. More to come as we get further into it. But I'm hopeful that will be a way to at least, come back to some of the basics that we all collectively believe in and what we believe we want to see in our community. So if you could stay in touch on that. Anything else, folks? Any other comments or thoughts? Mike.
Yeah, I would like to see, just all political flags down. We don't need to be taking sides. And I totally agree that we ought to just stay neutral. We are welcoming to everybody. But we don't have to be. What about the employees that maybe that pride flag offends them. What about them? Why not just have them all down except for the American flag and the state flag, and just stay neutral and just welcome everybody, but not be having to make political statements? What is wrong with that? I mean, that's my opinion on it.
Well, on this, I think we can get, right into the debate that has been going on at the school board for quite a while and has actually, created quite an amount of divisiveness and actually negative press in our community, as mentioned. As to whether or not you see the pride flag as political, I think is a question itself, to be honest with you. And I think that that's something that we as a community need to wrestle with. We've seen it in our not too distant past, in churches in our community wrestling with the subjects. And I think we just have to, sit down and talk about what all of this means to each of us, and to try to come to some collective notion. Because Mike, I agree with you, we are welcoming, but to some, because of actions that are recently taken, they do not feel welcome. And so I think this is something that we just, I hope we can converse about it and really do what's best for our entire community. So, all right, anything else, folks? Seeing nothing, Zach, I am going to give you the utmost privilege. The point that, no, that's probably it. You get to, do you have your agenda in front of you? Yes. Item 9 is you. All right, you got it? What does it say?
Adjournment, or however you pronounce that word.
You got it. You nailed it. You nailed it. With that, Zach, we are adjourned. Thank you so much for being mayor for the day. I hope you consider it here in a few years in the future. Join the council, join the city committee. We told you that we've got student representatives. So we hope to see you again in the not too distant future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great to meet you. Everybody else, have a great night, and we will see you soon. See you soon. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.